Mason's time travel odyssey in ancient Rome. What would you do if you woke up 2,000 years in the past, stranded in a world of chariots and emperors, with only your modern know-how to survive? Meet Mason Carter, a 33-year-old American mechanic from Detroit, whose life takes a wild turn when a freak accident hurls him back to Rome in 100 AD. A grease-stained gearhead in a toga-wearing empire. What could possibly go wrong? In this thrilling tale, you'll discover how Mason's 21st century skills spark chaos, comedy, and revolution in the Eternal City. Will he outsmart scheming senators, fix a crumbling empire's transportation, and avoid becoming Lion Chow? Stick around to uncover the jaw-dropping secrets of his journey, and a prophecy that could change everything. The sun blazed over Detroit's grimy auto shop, where Mason Carter, a lanky man with calloused hands and a permanent motor oil smudge on his cheek, was elbows deep in the guts of a '97 Chevy pickup. His radio blared classic rock, drowning out the clatter of wrenches. Life was simple: fix cars, crack jokes, and dream of a day when his side hustle, a custom-wheel design, might hit it big. But today wasn't that day. As he tightened a bolt, a strange hum vibrated through the shop, low and eerie, like a tuning fork struck by lightning. The air shimmered. His tools glowed blue. Before he could curse, a blinding flash swallowed him whole. When Mason's vision cleared, he was sprawled on a dusty road, the stench of horse manure replacing the familiar tang of oil. Hooves thundered nearby. He scrambled to his feet, dodging a rickety cart pulled by a snorting mule. Men in tunics shouted in a language he vaguely recognized from high school Latin class. Towering aqueducts loomed in the distance, and a colossal amphitheater, the Colosseum, dominated the skyline. "No freaking way," Mason muttered, rubbing his eyes. "This ain't Michigan." It was Rome, 100 AD, under the iron-fisted rule of Emperor Trajan. The city buzzed with merchants, soldiers, and slaves, all weaving through streets clogged with creaking chariots and wobbly carts. Mason, in his grease-stained jeans and Red Wings cap, stuck out like a spark plug in a haystack. His first instinct was to find a way home, but the humming device, a bizarre, pocket-sized gadget he'd found in the shop, was now dead, its glowing runes dark. He was stuck. As he wandered, dodging curious stares, Mason noticed the chaos of Roman transportation. Chariots broke down constantly, their wooden wheels splintering on cobblestones, axles snapping under heavy loads. Merchants cursed as deliveries stalled, and legionaries grumbled about delayed supplies for Trajan's latest war. To Mason, it was like watching a city full of lemons begging for a mechanic. His fingers twitched. He'd spent years turning rust buckets into road warriors. Surely he could fix a few horse-drawn jalopies. But Rome wasn't Detroit. His American swagger, complete with slang and a habit of calling the Colosseum a parking lot for gladiators, drew suspicion. A burly blacksmith named Lucius, with arms like tree trunks, eyed him warily when Mason offered to help at his forge. "You talk strange, outsider," Lucius growled. "Are you a spy for the Parthians?" Mason's attempts to explain radial tire concepts only made things worse. Whispers spread. Was this loudmouthed stranger a sorcerer, a saboteur, or something worse? Yet Mason saw opportunity in the chaos. If he could modernize these rickety chariots, stronger wheels, better axles, maybe even a crude suspension system, he could make life easier for everyone. He imagined the look on Lucius's face when a cart rolled smoother than a Cadillac. But the stakes were higher than he knew. Rome's empire ran on its roads, and Trajan's looming campaign against Dacia demanded flawless logistics. A single breakdown could spell disaster for an army or a city. Mason didn't realize it yet, but his skills were about to thrust him into the heart of an empire's survival, with an emperor's wrath and a lion's jaws waiting if he failed. As he stood in the shadow of the Colosseum, a cloaked figure watched him from the crowd, muttering cryptic words about a man from the future destined to reshape Rome's path. Mason didn't notice. He was too busy eyeing a busted chariot wheel, muttering, "Buddy, you need an alignment worse than my ex's Camaro." Little did he know, his next move would spark a chain of events that could either save Rome or get him thrown to the beasts. What happens when a Detroit gearhead tries to hot rod an empire's chariots under the suspicious gaze of ancient Romans? Mason Carter, our time-displaced mechanic, is about to find out. Stranded in Rome, 100 AD, he's armed with nothing but his 21st century know-how and a knack for turning wrecks into winners. But as he dives into fixing the Eternal City's crumbling transport system, he's caught in a web of intrigue, jealousy, and imperial power plays. Will his modern tricks save the day, or will they land him in a gladiator's grave? Buckle up for a wild ride through Rome's dusty streets, where every turn of the wrench sparks laughter, danger, and a mystery that could rewrite history. Mason wasted no time. The chaotic streets of Rome, with their splintered chariot wheels and cursing drivers, were like a giant auto shop begging for his expertise. He zeroed in on a bustling forge near the Forum, where Lucius, the grizzled blacksmith, hammered away at crude iron axles. Mason, still in his faded jeans and Red Wings cap, swaggered up with a grin. "Yo, Lucius, your wheels are deader than a Dodge Dart. Let me show you how we roll in Detroit." Lucius squinted, his hammer pausing mid-swing. "Speak plainly, outsider, or I'll forge you into a spearhead." Undeterred, Mason pointed at a nearby chariot, its wooden wheel wobbling like a drunk toddler. "That's your problem right there. No balance, no durability. I can make it stronger, faster, hell, smoother than a Cadillac on I-94. He sketched a design in the dirt, a reinforced wheel with a metal rim and a crude hub system inspired by modern tires. Lucius scoffed but let him try, mostly because the shop's backlog was piling up faster than Rome's laundry. Mason's first challenge was tools, or the lack thereof. No power drills, no lathes, just hammers, chisels, and a forge hotter than a Michigan summer. He improvised, teaching Lucius to shape iron into thinner, stronger bands for wheel rims. He introduced a basic spoke system, balancing weight and stability, and even rigged a primitive grease lubricant from animal fat. The result? A chariot that didn't just roll, it glided. When Lucius tested it, hauling a load of grain across the cobblestones without a single creak, his scowl turned to a grudging nod. Sorcery or not, this works. Word spread faster than gossip at a Dearborn diner. Merchants lined up, begging for Mason's magic wheels. He turned the forge into a proto-assembly line, barking orders like a shop foreman. "Lucius, heat that iron hotter. Gaius, quit eyeballing the measurements. Use the damn stick I marked." His American slang baffled the Romans, who started calling him the motor mouth behind his back. Mason didn't care. He was in his element, grease on his hands, the clank of metal music to his ears. For the first time since landing in this ancient madhouse, he felt alive. But Rome wasn't ready for a revolution. Mason's success drew eyes, some curious, others dangerous. A wiry senator named Cassius, with a smile sharper than a gladius, visited the forge under the guise of ordering a chariot upgrade. His real mission? To sniff out whether Mason was a threat to Rome's order. "Your contraptions are unnatural," Cassius purred, eyeing Mason's dirt sketches. "Where does a barbarian learn such craft? Parthia, perhaps?" Mason, wiping sweat from his brow, laughed. "Parthia? Nah, man, I'm from Motown. We build real machines." Cassius's smile didn't reach his eyes. He reported back to his allies. This stranger was either a genius or a spy, and either way, he was trouble. The tension cranked up when Mason's innovations caught the attention of Trajan's court. A centurion named Marcus, built like a linebacker and loyal to the emperor, stormed into the forge with a scroll sealed in wax. "Mason of Detroit," he barked. "The emperor commands your presence. Bring your tools, or your head." Mason's stomach dropped. He'd heard stories of Trajan's temper. One wrong move, and he'd be lying bait. As he followed Marcus through Rome's marble-clad Palatine Hill, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. That cloaked figure from the Colosseum lingered in the shadows, whispering to a servant about the man who knows the future's roads. At the imperial court, Trajan loomed like a statue of Jupiter, his presence filling the room. "Your wheels impress my quartermasters," he said, his voice calm but edged with steel. "But Rome's strength lies in its legions, not tricks. Prove your worth, or I'll feed you to the beasts." Mason swallowed hard. Trajan's latest campaign against Dacia was faltering. Supply lines were choking on broken carts. delaying food and weapons to the front. The Emperor needed 50 chariots retrofitted for war, reinforced, fast, and reliable in 4 days. Failure meant death, not just for Mason but for Lucius and his crew, who'd vouched for him. The stakes were brutal. Mason's mind raced. For days, he'd rebuilt a Mustang in a weekend, but this was different. No Home Depot, no coffee-fueled all-nighters. Worse, rumors swirled of sabotage. Cassius and his cronies, fearing Mason's influence, spread whispers that his foreign magic would curse Rome's armies. One night, a fire broke out in the forge, destroying half their iron stock. Lucius, red-eyed and furious, grabbed Mason's collar. "If you're a spy, I'll get you myself." Mason, heart-pounding, swore he was clean. He didn't know who to trust, Lucius, Marcus, or even the mysterious cloaked figure who left a cryptic note in his satchel. The wheel turns, but the road hides secrets. Mason rallied. He worked day and night, teaching Lucius's apprentices to mass-produce his designs. He improvised a pulley system to lift heavy axles, saving hours. When saboteurs loosened a chariot's pins, Mason caught it just before a test run, saving a driver's life. Each victory came with a cost: exhaustion, paranoia, and the growing sense that Cassius was plotting something bigger. One evening, Marcus pulled Mason aside. "The Emperor trusts you for now, but Cassius claims you're building weak wheels to betray us in Dacia. Prove him wrong, or we're all dead." The pressure was crushing, but Mason thrived on it. He tweaked his designs, adding reinforced hubs inspired by truck suspensions. He charmed the apprentices with stories of iron horses, cars, that roared without animals, earning their loyalty. By day 3, the forge was a hive of activity, churning out chariots that could haul twice the load at double the speed. Merchants who'd mocked Mason now begged for his work. Even Marcus cracked a rare smile, muttering, "You're no Parthian, but you're no Roman either." Yet the cloaked figure's words haunted him. What secrets did the road hide? Was it a way home? A trap? As the 4th day loomed, Mason overheard Cassius scheming with a guard to tamper with the chariots before Trajan's inspection. The betrayal stung, but it lit a fire in Mason's gut. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting to prove that a guy from Detroit could outsmart an empire. With the clock ticking and danger closing in, Mason prepared for a showdown that would test every ounce of his ingenuity. Can a lone mechanic from Detroit outwit an empire's treachery and save the day with nothing but grit and grease? Mason Carter, our time-displaced gearhead, faces the ultimate test in Rome, 100 AD. With Emperor Trajan's deadline looming, 50 war-ready chariots in 4 days, or a one-way ticket to the lion pit, Mason's modern know-how is pushed to the breaking point. Sabotage, betrayal, and a mysterious prophecy swirl around him, threatening to derail his mission. Will he pull off a miracle, or will Rome's schemers crush him under their heels? Get ready for a heart-pounding clash of wits, where every wrench turn could mean victory or death, and a secret that might just rewrite Mason's fate. The sun rose over Rome on the 4th day, casting a golden glow on the forge where Mason worked like a man possessed. Sweat dripped from his brow, his red wings caps soaked through, as he tightened the final bolts on the last of 50 reinforced chariots. The air hummed with tension. Lucius and his apprentices hammered and synced, their faces taut with exhaustion and hope. Mason's innovations, stronger wheels, iron-reinforced axles, and a crude suspension system, had transformed the rickety carts into war machines that could haul supplies across the empire's brutal roads. But the clock was ticking. Trajan's inspection was hours away, and Mason's gut churned with dread. Cassius, the snake-like senator, was out there, plotting to bury him. The forge was a battlefield of its own. Tools were scarce, and the sabotage from the previous night, a fire that nearly gutted their iron supply, had cost precious time. Mason had barely slept, his hands blistered from forging new rims. Worse, he'd caught whispers of Cassius's latest scheme, tampered chariots designed to collapse during the Emperor's test, pinning the blame on Mason. "That slimy bastard," Mason muttered, checking a wheel for loose pins. "Thinks he can frame me like I'm some chump off Woodward Avenue." Lucius, overhearing, clapped a meaty hand on his shoulder. "Fix this, Motormouth, or we're all lion food." As the deadline closed in, Marcus, the burly centurion, arrived with a squad of legionaries to escort the chariots to the Campus Martius, Rome's sprawling military field. Mason's heart raced. The open plain, dotted with soldiers and cheering crowds, felt like Ford Field during a Lions game, except the stakes were bloodier. Trajan himself would test the chariots, riding one in a mock charge to prove their worth for the Dacian campaign. If they failed, Mason's head would roll before the Lions even got a chance. The first test was a gut check. Marcus selected a chariot, loaded it with grain sacks, and drove it across the field's uneven terrain. The crowd held its breath as the wheel spun, kicking up dust. Mason clenched his fists, praying his designs held. The chariot didn't just hold. It flew, smoother than anything Rome had seen. The crowd roared, and Marcus shot Mason a nod that said, "Not bad, outsider." But Mason's relief was short-lived. He spotted Cassius in the stands, whispering to a guard who slipped away toward the remaining chariots. Mason's instinct screamed sabotage. He sprinted to the lineup, ignoring Lucius's shouts, and checked the next chariot in the queue, the one Trajan would ride. His blood ran cold. The axle pins were loosened, just enough to snap under a gallop. "Son of a—" he growled, diving under the chassis with his makeshift wrench. The guard Cassius had bribed lunged forward, drawing a dagger, but Lucius tackled him, bellowing, "Not in my forge, you rat." The crowd gasped, thinking it was part of the show, as Mason tightened the pins with seconds to spare. Trajan mounted the chariot, his golden armor gleaming. Mason held his breath as the emperor cracked the reins, charging across the field at full speed. The chariot thundered, its wheels holding firm over ruts that would have shattered lesser carts. Trajan's war cry echoed as he circled back, unharmed, and the crowd erupted. Mason exhaled, his legs wobbling. He'd done it. The chariots were a triumph, and Trajan's quartermasters were already planning to roll them out to Dacia. But Cassius wasn't finished. As Trajan dismounted, Cassius strode forward, his voice dripping with venom. "Emperor, this outsider's sorcery is a trick. His machines will fail in battle, dooming our legions." He produced a tampered wheel, planted evidence from a sabotaged cart, and held it aloft. The crowd murmured, doubt creeping in. Mason's temper flared. "You want to talk tricks, Cassius? Check your own guys. They've been messing with my work." He pointed at the guard, now pinned by Lucius, whose dagger glinted with guilt. Trajan's eyes narrowed. He demanded a final test, a race between Mason's chariot and a traditional Roman one, driven by Cassius's chosen man, a wiry charioteer named Flavius. The stakes: if Mason's chariot lost, he'd face the arena. If he won, Cassius would answer for his lies. Mason didn't hesitate. "Bring it on, Flavius. I've raced faster go-karts at Belle Isle." The crowd roared, sensing blood. The race was chaos. Flavius's chariot, built in the old style, wobbled dangerously, while Mason's glided like a dream. But halfway through, a hidden spike, another of Cassius's traps, punctured Mason's wheel. The chariot lurched, and the crowd screamed. Mason's mind flashed to every crunch time fix he'd pulled in Detroit. He leaped from the driver's seat, grabbed a spare pin from his satchel, and slid under the chariot mid-race, tightening the wheel as Flavius pulled ahead. Dust choked his lungs, and the crowd's cheers became a deafening roar. With a final twist of his wrench, Mason remounted and cracked the reins, his chariot surging forward. In a photo finish, Mason crossed the line first, the crowd exploding in cheers. Flavius's chariot collapsed in a heap, its wheels splintering. Trajan raised a hand, silencing the field. "The outsider proves his worth," he declared. "Cassius, you will answer for your deceit." The senator's face paled as guard seized him, his scheme unraveling. Mason, panting and covered in dirt, felt a surge of triumph. He'd not only saved the chariots, but exposed Cassius's treachery, earning the emperor's respect. As the crowd chanted his name, the cloaked figure from the shadows approached, slipping a small, rune-covered stone into Mason's hand. "The road to the future begins here," she whispered, her eyes glinting with secrets. "Find the Via Futura, or Rome's glory will fade." Mason stared at the stone, its faint glow eerily familiar. Was it a key to home? A trap? Or something bigger? As Trajan summoned him to discuss the Dacian campaign, Mason knew his work in Rome was far from over. What does it take to not just survive but thrive in a world 2,000 years before your time? Mason Carter, Detroit's finest mechanic, has just pulled off the impossible in Rome, 100 AD, saving an empire's war machine with his souped-up chariots. But victory comes with a price. A cryptic prophecy, a glowing stone, and whispers of a via futura hint at a destiny far bigger than fixing wheels. Is Mason stuck in Rome forever, or is there a road back to his own time? This thrilling finale will leave you on the edge of your seat, craving answers, and trust us, you'll want to hit that subscribe button to catch what happens next in Mason's wild ride. The dust settled on the Campus Martius, the cheers of the crowd still ringing in Mason's ears as Emperor Trajan's guards dragged the seething Cassius away. The senator's plot to sabotage Mason's chariots had crumbled under the weight of his own treachery, exposed in front of Rome's elite. Mason, covered in sweat and grime, stood tall, his red wings capped tilted defiantly. The 50 chariots he'd rebuilt gleamed under the Roman sun, ready to carry supplies to the Dacian front. Trajan himself approached, his stern face softening into something like respect. "You've earned your place, Mason of Detroit," he declared, his voice carrying over the field. "I name you Ingeniator Primus, chief engineer of my legions." The crowd roared, chanting Motormouth. Motormouth. Mason's nickname now a badge of honor. Lucius, the burly blacksmith, clapped him on the back so hard it nearly knocked him over. "You're no spy," Lucius grinned, "but you're still a pain in my forge." Mason laughed, his chest swelling with pride. He'd done it, turned a city of rickety carts into a lean, mean transport machine, saving not just his own skin, but the Empire's supply lines. For a moment, he could almost forget he was 2,000 years from home, from Detroit's neon-lit diners and the hum of a V8 engine. But the moment didn't last. In his pocket, the rune-covered stone from the cloaked figure pulsed faintly, its warmth tingling against his skin. Her words echoed, "Find the Via Futura, or Rome's glory will fade." What the hell was the Via Futura? A road? A portal? A metaphor? Mason's mechanic brain craved something concrete, not cryptic riddles. As Trajan summoned him to a grand feast in the Palatine Hills' opulent halls, Mason felt the weight of unanswered questions. He'd won the battle, but a new war was brewing, one tied to that mysterious stone and the shadowy figure who'd slipped it to him. The feast was a sensory overload. Platters of roasted boar, wine flowing like the Tiber, and senators toasting Mason's name while eyeing him like a prize hog. Trajan, seated on a golden throne, raised a goblet. To Mason, whose wheels will carry Rome to victory. Mason forced a grin, but his eyes scanned the room. The cloaked figure was there, lurking near a marble column, her face half hidden. When their gazes met, she tilted her head toward a side corridor and vanished. Mason's pulse quickened. He excused himself, muttering about needing air, and followed her trail. The corridor led to a torchlit chamber deep within the palace, its walls carved with faded symbols that looked eerily like the runes on his stone. The cloaked figure stood waiting, her hood falling back to reveal a woman with sharp eyes and silver-streaked hair. She called herself Livia, a seer who served no emperor but the will of time itself. Mason snorted. "Lady, I'm a mechanic, not a fortune cookie reader. What's this Via Futura, and why is it my problem?" Livia's voice was low, urgent. "You were brought here, Mason, not by chance but by fate. The Via Futura is a path, a road that binds past and future. Your skills have saved Rome's present, but its future teeters. The stone you hold is a key, but only you can find the lock." She pointed to a map etched into the wall, showing Rome's road spiraling outward like a galaxy. One line, faint and unmarked, led to a distant hill beyond the city. "Seek it there," she said, "before the next moon, or Rome's strength will falter, and you'll never return home." Mason's head spun. Home. Detroit's greasy spoons, his beat-up Chevy, his life. Could this Via Futura be his ticket back? Or was Livia playing him, just like Cassius had tried? Before he could press her, shouts echoed from the hall, guards, searching for him. Livia vanished into the shadows, leaving only a whisper. Trust the stone. Mason cursed under his breath, clutching the glowing rock. He had no map, no tools, and no clue what he was chasing, but the fire in his gut told him to keep moving. Back at the feast, Trajan pulled Mason aside. Your chariots march with my legions tomorrow, he said. But rumors of your future knowledge unsettle my court. Prove your loyalty in Dacia, or questions will linger. Mason nodded, his mind racing. He just dodged one death sentence, and now he was being sent to a war zone. Worse, he had to find this Via Futura, whatever it was, while dodging suspicious generals and a ticking clock. The stone pulsed hotter in his pocket, as if urging him forward. As dawn broke, Mason stood at the edge of Rome, watching the chariots roll out, their wheels humming with his designs. Lucius handed him a forged iron wrench, a gift etched with Roman eagles. Keep that motor mouth shut in Dacia, Lucius teased, and come back alive. Mason grinned, but his eyes were on the distant hill Livia had pointed to. The stone's glow flickered, almost like a compass. Was it guiding him to answers, or a trap? He mounted a chariot, joining the legion's march, his heart torn between duty and destiny. The road ahead was uncharted, and the Via Futura loomed like a riddle wrapped in a dream. Would it lead him home to Detroit, or deeper into Rome's tangled fate? One thing was sure. Mason Carter, the motormouth of Rome, wasn't done turning wrenches, or turning heads. Want to know what secrets the Via Futura holds? Will Mason find his way home, or reshape an empire? Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for the next chapter of this time-bending saga. You won't want to miss what's coming.